must die young.
Hello, thank you for joining us on a fine Sunday evening. My name's Lance Nielsen. I'm one of the co-founders of the Outcasts Creative, a group of creative individuals from all over the world. In fact, we all met during lockdown. Well, some of us knew each other before then, but I'm digressing. So tonight we're going to be talking to some British actors who have been jobbing it out in Los Angeles, in LA, the place of the Hollywood sign. Tonight, my co-host should have been Suzette Pluck, but the Pluckosaurus is a bit ill today. So I'm going to be bringing in one of the Outcast regulars who was going to take part in the stream anyway, and is also a British actor jobbing it out in LA. None other than Rez Kempton himself. Hello.
Hey, man. Good to see you.
Yeah, how you doing?
How's Suzette? Wish her my best.
I'm sure she's not really poorly. I think she's just tired from partying. You know, the weekends for her are all about traveling out and clubbing it, and doesn't normally like doing late streams on a Sunday evening. Wednesday evening, yes. Sunday, no.
I appreciate
so there's no need to send her flowers or anything like that.
Okay, I won't.
But yeah,
wish
so
you well,
you all
Suzette.
good?
Yeah, good. Thank you. Yeah, thanks for having us here.
No worries. I mean, so we've got a couple more people coming in as well. But just for those people watching, thanks very much for tuning in. Do hit the like and subscribe button if you have any questions you want to ask our actors, because most actors in the UK aspire to go and work in Hollywood, or certainly aspire to work in the sort of foreign shores of the mighty USA at some point, be that a play in New York or working in Atlanta on a Tyler Perry movie or wherever. Most of us would like to get the chance to get out there. I'd like to direct a show. My big ambition, actually, when I was younger, much younger, I always wanted to direct an episode of my favorite American TV show at that time in the 90s. Rez, can you guess what that was?
90s?
90s.
I don't know. Something space, sci-fi.
No, man, you know me. I do a lot of serious drama. I don't write much sci-fi.
That's what I'm just saying.
I mean, I've written a sci-fi novel series.
You have written a very good sci-fi novel.
I have written a very good sci-fi novel series. I plug it all the time, so I won't do it now. But
yeah, I can't wait for them to make that. So that'd be awesome.
Yeah, it would be. It would be awesome. We do need somebody to make that at some point, but it's not happening yet. No, I always wanted to direct an episode of ER.
Oh, okay. I was going to think some courtroom drama or something, because you're good at those too.
ER had a lot of my favorite actors in it. Anthony Edwards, I've been a massive fan of ever since I saw him. Not before Top Gun. He was in a load of films I saw. Revenge of the Nerds, in fact, was the first thing I saw him in.
Oh, wow.
Anyway, without any further delay, we've got two other Brits who've been toiling away in the California state. Whereas we know every day it's just another day of sun. So it's it was almost a day of sun in the UK today, and then the heavens open. I'd like to welcome, both in the same room, Raymond Kym Suttle and Nichola Fynn. Thank you very much.
Nichola.
Is your audio working? Sorry, Nichola Fynn. I knew I was going to get that wrong. Nichola Fynn. I even checked before we did the stream, and I still got it wrong.
You've Americanized yourself, because that's what all the Americans call it.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm trying to be the American in the room, and I like Raymond's choice of cup there. Very, very patriotic.
Oh, right.
And
this is the life.
Yeah,
brilliant.
Carefully chosen.
Guys, thanks very much for joining on what would be, for all of you, I think, 8 hours behind your Sunday afternoon.
Swelteringly hot day.
Yeah, very hot.
Well, I wish I could say the same. Suzette said, "Don't be a cheeky so-and-so, and yes, please do send flowers."
We'll send the weather
not ill,
to you.
but you can send them.
Send them, right? Fair enough.
So look, guys, I want to set the scene a bit here. You're all Brits working in LA. We were going to have a few more on the stream tonight. I had a couple more planned. and I thought, you know what? Let's invite everyone I know, because this is Los Angeles, and what's going to happen is we'll invite 8 to 10 people, and maybe we'll get 2. And we got 1 more than 2. We got 3. That's good. But I mean, we'll come back to that, because I did live in LA for a while. I've got a few questions here on my board, my big board of doom. So if I lean down to the floor occasionally, that's why. But I want to just set some background. Don't get into other topics just yet. Just give me a straight answer on this. Rez, what year did you first go out to LA and start working out there?
I first came out to LA in the summer of 2019 and moved out here 2020, which was perfect timing.
Perfect timing. You were just like, yes, I've made it. Nothing could go wrong. It's the end of 2019.
Nothing happened.
It's going to be such a good year for me.
Nothing, exactly. We're because of that opportunity in 2019,
going to come back to that.
Come out
The
here.
only way is stop, baby.
Raymond, what year did you?
I got here. We're going in reverse order because I got here in 2014, April 2014. I've just had my 8th year anniversary.
Wow, 8 years. Okay.
Nichola and I came on a networking week in 2010.
Yeah, that's right.
And she got here way before me.
I did.
Nichola,
yeah.
Before
I
Raymond steals your answer.
I've been here about 11 years.
Do you know the year that you came out? What would that be? That would be what, 2010?
2011, I think. Yeah.
2011? Right, okay.
Yeah.
11 or 12.
Wow, okay,
I
fantastic.
know. Oh,
So,
God. I'm showing my age.
Quite a lot's changed in the American landscape in that period of time, and I'm going to be interested to hear about how you feel that might be changing and shaping things. Before we get into the kind of whole working in LA thing, I just want people to get to know you a little bit. So, Nichola, can you remember the very first film you saw at the cinema?
Ooh. I think the most memorable one, I'm going to say that, and it was in America.
I don't want the most memorable one. I want the first.
Oh, gosh.
That's a different question.
Hocus
Memorable
Pocus.
film and first film are 2 different things.
Hocus Pocus.
Hocus Pocus.
And it's still one of my favourites to this day.
Rez, what was yours?
I went with my dad and we watched King Kong.
Peter Jackson?
Yeah.
Or, yeah. Oh, I was going to
No,
go with
no,
was it the original?
It's not the original 1936.
There was one made in.
Yeah, my father.
There was one made in the 70s, wasn't there?
Yeah.
No, I don't know which one it was because I was very young, but I just remember Big Ape.
King Kong.
Well, did it have Jessica Lange in it?
And Raymond, what was yours?
I'm totally dating myself. It's the only movie I've seen several times over, Mary Poppins.
Oh.
Wow, Mary Poppins. That's interesting.
Amazing.
Okay. Expialidocious and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Okay. So, what was the last film you saw on the big screen? That question to you, Rez.
Batman.
Okay, the latest Batman. Raymond?
I actually went to the cinema last night. I saw Secrets of Dumbledore.
Interesting. What did you, any good?
Um,
Let's move on.
It wasn't bad.
Nichola.
Batman as well. I'm with Rez.
Batman?
Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. Funnily enough, Operation Mincemeat was the last film I saw at the cinema. Batman was the last before that. I wanted to go and see The Northman, but it was on and gone before I got a chance.
Oh, no.
Before I got a chance to go.
You'll have to come to LA because it's still on here.
Yeah.
I mean, it probably is on somewhere in town, but I've set myself a budget now, and that budget cannot be excelled. So, you know. All right, so let's. That just gives me an idea. One of the things I like to ask guests, especially creatives, actors, just so I've got an idea of your own influences. Would you if you could each name an actor, starting with Rez, who maybe influenced you either to become an actor or who you looked up to when you were younger?
Harrison Ford.
Interesting choice. Raymond?
I'm going to go with Richard Harris.
Mine would be Richard Burton, so we're on pretty similar territory there. And Nichola.
Judi Dench.
Oh, I've met her.
Really? Wow.
Absolutely lovely. Yeah, we did a private read through of a script that I wrote especially for her, which was delivered to her on her birthday as a present.
Oh wow! I should say Dame Judi Dench, really, shouldn't I?
I don't think she minds if you forget, but she likes the title, but she doesn't hold on to it, if you know what I mean.
Right, that's why I love her so much. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's probably the most unique present for someone's birthday I've ever given them. I've given people scripts for their birthdays before, but not one that's been read by a cast of 20 actors, and here it is on video for you to hear it with someone reading your part as a present for you.
Wow, nice.
I just know we're never going to get to make it, so I wanted her to hear it. So let's get on to the question at hand, because I know that's what people are going to want to know, and we're going to dive into what are the challenges of working out in LA and visas and all the rest of it. So, I mean, first of all, the first thing that an actor has to do is you've got to hit that effort button and say, I'm going for it. I remember Raymond having a conversation with me about this. Yeah, it would have been around 2013, end of 2013, where you were talking. You said you were going to go. People keep talking about going. There's never a right time. I'm going to go for it. What was the thing that made you decide, right, this is the time, Raymond?
Two principal reasons. One was finding out that it was possible. I just happened to.
You've got a timer on.
And that thing of realizing that, my parents had always set very reasonable limits for me, and to suddenly go, oh, actually, this is possible. And then the other thing was getting old and thinking, if I don't do it now, I don't want to be 10 years down the line and think, I wonder what would have happened if I'd done it. So I just had to do it. And it was interesting to see how many people said, oh, you're so brave. And I was like, well, I just don't want to be in a situation where I'm regretting not having tried.
Yeah. And well, I mean, certainly the weather agrees with you, because you were far whiter when I remember you over here. Nichola, what about for you before we go to Rez?
Yeah, no, I'd kind of done bit parts here and there, and I kind of got to a stage where I thought, what about Hollywood? Like, if I'm going to say I'm an actress, can I really call myself an actress if I haven't tried to go to Hollywood? Right. And it just seemed like the next step to do. And a bit like Raymond, it was like, is it possible? And as a kid, I always used to go to America and cry every time I left. So my parents kind of knew I probably would come across the pond at some point. But it never really come across my mind until I got to a point, and I thought, I think the last thing I did was Skyfall. I did a bit part in that, and they took my lines away because there's too much action going on. And I got to work with Dame Judi Dench, and I just thought, wow, if I don't do this now, when am I going to do this? And when I knew it was a possibility, I went for it. I jumped.
She is just the loveliest person on the planet.
She really is. She couldn't stop giggling, and that's why I loved it.
I've met her several times, and one of the times I wasn't drinking, and she always had excellent champagne, trays of it in her dressing room. And I said, I won't have one tonight, thanks, Judi. I think this is the second time. Don't talk bollocks, Lance. Don't talk bollocks. That's excellent champagne. You will have a glass. Excellent.
She certainly knows how to live life.
Because I was on some tablets, and you weren't supposed to mix. I think it was on antibiotics, and the rule was don't mix them with alcohol. And I was like, all right, just the one then. And it was, I have to say, it was very good champagne. So, Rez, what about for you?
I think similar reasons. Every actor wants to work here because, we grow up watching so many American movies and television shows in the UK. Added to that, I think, as you'll, and because, the Outcast is all about supporting diverse and new talent as well. Opportunity, it definitely felt like, if you were an actor of an ethnic background, you look into the likes of people like Idris Elba and people like that who'd come out here and made a career for themselves. And I think, in all honesty, I think there's more opportunity here. I think the UK is doing great stuff, trying to move forward. But America, if you're an actor from a different background other than white, then I think America had more doors open. And certainly that was one of the reasons a lot of my friends and people that I know, other actors of color that have come out here, is primarily for that opportunity.
That's interesting that you bring that up, because an agent, I mean, this might be a controversial thing to say, and I'm just repeating what I was told, but an agent, good friend of mine, represents a decent sort of middle tier agent, not one of the top 5 or 10 in London, but a decent, well-respected agency. Said they're no longer taking on any more white actors for the foreseeable future. I mean, unless it's someone already with caliber credits behind them, because 75% of all the work that they got their clients in 2021 went to non-white actors. That's what he told me.
Sorry, that is ridiculous, and that's utter.
I think that's true.
I think that's BS.
Maybe that was just his experience of.
But there's a narrative, and let's talk honestly about that. There's a narrative here, and I hear that perpetually. That all these actors are taking the work. Come on, let's be realistic. Let's put on any show. Do you know what I mean? And you'll start to run out of your fingers on your hands before you can name how many actors of color are fronting shows, leading it, or doing that. But white actors, I could go on for days. I just think that's a narrative that's been told to that's going against that movement. I've went into meetings here myself, and people have said that, and I've gone, really? Let's look at the actual statistics, and the statistics don't bear that out.
Okay, I'm going to give you a slightly different perspective, because I worked for my agent for a while doing castings, and in fact, there came a point when I had a lot of the white actors saying, "What's happened? I'm not getting many auditions." And I said, because majority of the castings, a lot of more castings are suddenly going for particularly ethnically ambiguous, and there is an attempt to do diversity. The fact is that most American programs are predominantly white actors and white characters, but there definitely was a point where the attempt to diversify casts was much stronger. And so I think there was, I don't know if it's still going on, but there was definitely a period where majority of castings were for people of color, ethnically ambiguous and such like. But
yeah, I mean, I wasn't casting anything for anybody else in 2021, so I can't speak from my own experience on that topic. The reason that this conversation came up was because this particular agent, I'd managed to get them some really good actors when they brought on a new agent, because the 2 agents that were there couldn't handle it, all the clients. The list got too big. So they brought on a 3rd agent, and that 3rd agent was opening their books. So they said to me, "Lance, anyone that's really talented who's not represented?" And I was, "Oh, hey, do I ever? I got about 20 names here I could give you right now." So I put a whole load of the regular outcasts up there, and a couple of them got represented by this person, and a few people took meetings, and one person in particular didn't say yes to being represented by this agent, which I think was a massive mistake for them. But that was up to them, and whatever. And then it was about 6 months down the road, so this would have been probably around, it was when work started happening again, towards the end of 2021. I guess we were probably coming off Kent State around that time. I think we finished that in May, so this was later. And I had 3 or 4 people that I'd met because of Kent State, and I said, "Oh, any more room on your books?" And they said, "Non-white actors only." And I was like, "How come? What's the story there?" And he just said, "Look, we're not getting the white clients that we have now. We're just not getting them enough work. Everybody else, I'm getting them seen for loads of things, because the breakdowns that we're getting, as Raymond said, at the minute are very much kind of, we would like to cast this person as ethnically diverse, or something along those lines."
Can I just add to
look,
that, Lance?
Maybe, Rez, it's about time,
It is about time. I mean, they've got lots of references out here, guys. I've never had so many references like BIPOC and all these different references, and Manasseh, the different, like, you know, ethnic groups that you're in as well. And the latest one I saw was PGM, People of Global Majority, because they're starting to use that on breakdowns now, because 80% of the world is non-white. So there is a balance that we need to reset. But also, Lance, to my point, from that agent's perspective, maybe a lot of those opportunities that they're talking about only for ethnic and, you know, diverse actors are the small roles, because that's where they can get people in. It hasn't affected the stars at all. Now, if you're an established actor, they are not working any less than they ever were before, because those opportunities are going to actors of color, you know, and you go on many forums and the rest of it. And we've got to really have that honest debate about that. And it's stop being a narrative of them and us and that, you know, a lot of actors are pulled together in that. And so, yes, there may be more opportunities for actors of color in small roles, in co-stars, what they call co-stars out here, you know, 1 or 2 day players and that. But the majority of the leading roles and, you know, the bigger roles, substantial roles are still, you know, those actors' careers aren't learning any less, you know. That's where the facts kind of bear out with the you know, look in the finances of it.
I have to say, if I may, I mean, that's one reason why I left England, was because I just wasn't getting the opportunities. You know, I'd go for like a year and think, where's an audition? I wouldn't see it, and I don't know if it's because I'm a woman, whether I'm white, what, you know, I don't know, but there just wasn't the opportunities. And as soon as I came out, and even getting an agent was so difficult. When I come out of drama school, I had a little bit more opportunity. I felt like England was like, oh, okay, she's just come out of drama school, let's give her a chance. But as soon as like a year hit, 2 year, trying to get an agent in England was really, really difficult. And like I said, I had bit parts here and there, but I had to give it a go in Hollywood, because I was like, I think if I don't give this a go, I don't know if there was any opportunity, but there definitely was opportunity when I got here. It was a completely different ball game.
And look, I think there's also the issue. It's way past time that, you know, as I said, most shows in America are way too white. Like there's so few diverse characters, and majority of work still goes to Caucasian actors.
Right.
But there's definitely a sense of, in America, things are way more possible. The same thing with Nichola. Finding an agent here was way easier than ever in London. The first year I was here,
I'm going to come on to the agent question. That's one of my questions, so don't get into that too much now. But I just think, you know, I definitely got like maybe 200% more work in the first year I was here than I did in 23 years in London. So yeah, okay. I mean, you know what? I think it would be great to down the road. I need to get an ethnically diverse panel of actors on for us to have a chat about this topic, because it is an interesting topic. It's one I hear quite a lot, and
it's impossible for us to know what the experience is of not being.
I think the bottom line is everybody's having different experiences. I mean, I think when I've done chats or I've done sessions where I've done industry talks about casting, whether that's with Sharon Sorrentino, my casting director, we've talking about the acting pyramid and who's the biggest demographic. And Nichola, probably the reason that you couldn't get representation in the UK was because unfortunately you fell into it, which is white female playing age 18 to 30. And, you know, there are more white female actresses in that category than any other category. So straight away, anybody in that category is at the bottom of the pile. You've got to work 10 times harder than anybody else, because there's so many people going up for every role in that category. It's the most oversubscribed category. And then I think the next most oversubscribed category is white male 18 to 30 and so on and so on. That's not reflected in terms of the parts available. I'm just in terms of the numbers of people going for the parts available. And numbers of actors in that category in London. You know, like I go and see a lot of the showcases, for example, and I have to say that I went to a showcase the other day and I was surprised at there were 30 odd actors in that showcase, roughly. There was one black actor, one Asian female. I think there was a mixed race girl. And I think that was it. I think all of the others were white. So I was quite surprised that pie chart had not changed, because I would have thought there would have been a more wide range of diverse people having been on that course. So I was a bit surprised that I went to a showcase. I go to showcases fairly regularly, but I hadn't been to one for a really long time. And I expected that to have changed. And I went to one, and it really hadn't. It was, in fact, the last showcase I saw before that 5 years ago was about 50% non-white actors. It was a smaller one. There was only about 15 people in it, but that did surprise me. So, I think everyone's experience is different, obviously.
I have a quick question for you on that. Out of those 30 actors, how many of them do you think were good?
I can tell you exactly, because, and bearing in mind that I only saw the first half of the showcase because I had to stay out during the interval because I had some calls to make. And I came to see one girl in particular, and she did 2 sketches, and I saw her do enough. But out of the people that I saw, which was, I think I saw all but one of them in the first half, I wrote down a short list of 8 who I immediately sent that list round to Sharon and a couple of other indie directors, James Bush, Patrick Ryder, Simon Cox, who did Kaleidoscope Man, Rain McCormick, and and I said, and I wrote who they were. Like, this guy looks like a tall Clark Kent, and I met him in the bar. Really nice energy, very polite, great presence on stage, really good standard of acting. If you need a sort of young Henry Cavill, Clark Kent type character, this is your guy. And that's all I wrote next to it, and put a link for him. They can do the rest of the work. And then, there was another girl, she was whatever she was, and I wrote a little thing. So I'll write something useful and I'll send it around to people that I think are gonna want to know about it. So my next question actually was, it's the visa thing. And a lot of English actors will be thinking about that. How difficult is it to get a visa just to be there for a bit to try and get work? Have you got to get a specific type of visa? Can you do the 3-month holiday thing and try and sort of then get it on the side while you're there? I know back in the early 2000s, there was kind of a niche industry over there that was it was a bit of a pirate industry, and you had to be really careful. There was some dodgy people in it. An actor called Gideon Turner told me a lot about it, who lived there for a while. And there was this cottage industry around trying to get British actors visas, and some really dodgy characters working in that. I'm sure a lot of it's changed now. So maybe let's start with Nichola, as she's been there the longest. What was the process you went through to get the visa to actually work there, and how did that all go?
Yeah, absolutely. I went when I found out that you could get it's called an O1 visa, alien of extraordinarily ability.
Outstanding ability. Outstanding. That's
outstanding.
Right.
I was like, what's all this about? So I looked it up, and you had to have credits, and you had to have a certain amount of this and that, and basically trying to get a project together, and also the fact that you could get a lawyer, that could help you. This was all very new to me. I knew there's no one in my family, none of my friends, none of them knew what that was, what I was about to do. And so I went into it. Luckily, I had a lawyer that I paid a lot of money to in Florida. Never met this person. And so I remember very, very distinctly me and my mum having a cup of tea thinking, what have I just done? Like, I literally sent a load of money over, hoping for the best, hoping to hear in 3 months if I got approval or pending. And luckily it did all work out for me. But again, it was a very kind of, I knew no one that had done it. So It was very scary. I would say scary, but also I think being younger then, I didn't think about it that much either. I just thought, if this is possible, this is my opportunity, I just went for it. Whereas now it gives me horrors.
Who was it that, before I let my other guests answer the same question, sorry, who was it that kind of referred you to that person and said, this is the person you've got to sort of pay a fee to, and all the rest of it?
Nichola and I came on a thing called Industry Hollywood.
Yes.
With Rachel Lumberg and Richard.
Richards.
Hello, I've gone blank on his name.
I know, me too, and I was hoping you'd know. Richard Beck.
Richard Beck.
Yes. If I hadn't have gone to their, it's almost like a workshop.
Yeah.
I was sitting there I was like looking around at people going, is this possible? Oh my gosh. And I remember asking them for a recommendation and it went through like that. But again, knew no one and it all went through. A cup of tea helped, I think.
Nichola had much greater luck than I did.
Yes, exactly. And I mean, now, jumping forward 11 years, I've just received my green card. It was an amazing Christmas present for me, but an incredible journey. I mean, it's not, as you can tell, 11 years. Yeah. You know, I've had 301s.
Forgive me for being lack of knowledge on this subject, but once you get the green card, and I have seen the movie, but I don't think that's going to help me. How long does that now enable you to stay out there and work in America?
Yeah, supposedly 10 years.
Well, it's indefinite. You can renew after 10
but
years.
I can renew it.
Okay,
and the process is a form, apparently.
Chances of renewing are fairly strong once you're in there, I would imagine. And
unless the government decides to change the rules, yeah.
If you marry a Texan called Bob or something, that might help. Okay, fantastic.
And it was such a weird process during COVID as well, because no one could really tell me when I was going to get it.
I'm sure Rez is going to have some interesting points to add about that. Okay, so Nichola, thank you for that. So Raymond, you went to the same seminar with the same people.
Same seminar.
You went over a bit later.
So my situation was slightly different because I have a sister who is an American citizen and she lives in Dallas. And I had first talked to her about getting a sibling visa. And we said, it's going to take 10 years. And in actual fact, if I'd done that sibling visa, I would have got here earlier than I did with the 01. My first 01, I was recommended an immigration consultant, and I got nervous because she didn't seem to be on the ball. So I then went to somebody else, and that was the worst choice I ever made because myself and actually one of Nicola's friends and a whole lot of other people lost our money because the woman ran off with our $5,000. So I really hoped that she needed it for a hospital bill rather than shoes. So then I had to go back to the first woman and pay more money. So it was incredibly expensive. And the first lady actually was fantastic, ultimately. Got my O1 visa, and then I went to another solicitor here in LA to ask about a green card. And he went, there's no chance. But in actual fact, in order to get the green card, you have to fulfill certain criteria. And I'm lucky because I have an MA. I've had some stuff published. I've taught. I checked a lot of the boxes in terms of categories. It used to be you only had to fill 3 categories. And now you really have to fill 5 in order to get the green card.
So, in essence, in your experience, even since you went over, which isn't that long ago, it's already tougher since then.
It's the same thing. It's like when I arrived in LA, I went to a friend's acting class, and the guy teaching acting class said, "What are you doing here?" I said, "I'm an actor." And he went, "Oh, great! Exactly what LA needs, another actor." And I said, "If it's anything like London, there are lots and lots of people here who say they're actors, who say they're writers, who say they're filmmakers, whatever." But in actual fact, the people who have the skills and the talents and the drive, it whittles down to a much smaller number.
Right.
And one of the weird things would be, I think that if I'd thought about it more clearly, I probably could have got the green card before the 01. I was in it just because I had more boxes to tick than Nichola. I had one 01 visa and then my green card. But at the same time, I also don't know if it was colored by the fact that my sister is a citizen and a doctor, and that may well help.
You had a few balls in your court. Rez, how was it for you?
Yeah, I mean, I just applied really. So I went to a seminar. I went to these seminars by one of these people, who does industry visas and stuff, and does talks in London and make a lot of money off actors, getting people out here. So I went with a very good friend of mine. We were both thinking about we're just talking, as actors do, about, oh, wouldn't it be fun to go over there? And I'd never really even been to America before, but having grown up watching a lot of American stuff, it was every actor's kind of little ambition, isn't it, to come to America and have a go here. And then we start seeing people doing it. We start seeing, actors doing it, our friends doing it, and actually coming out here and doing the work. So went along to a seminar, listened to the guy. He sounded a bit salesy, kind of went away thinking, nah, not really. I haven't got the money to throw at this, to do that. And then just working, having an opportunity. My agent got me a film out here, and they sorted out some paperwork and things and all of that. I came out here to do that movie, got my SAG because of it. And then I came back, and then while I was there before I came back, they said, I had a few meetings with people out here in the industry, and they said, you should only really come out here with paperwork. Don't just show up, And so I went back and then spoke to a few friends, put me in touch with a lawyer, had a conversation with them, just said, look, what do you think? Is there any chance? At the time, obviously, Donald Trump was still president, so that was always in the back of my mind. Because hearing his speeches and canceling green cards and all the rest of it, that was in the back of my mind. And it is a lot of money. Absolutely, it's a big outlay for you to spend to do it. And I kind of said to the lawyer, look, can you give me an honest opinion, what you really think? Is it worth me even trying to do this? And he seemed very confident. And so, they just put the paperwork through, and whatever they asked me for, I sent them, and lo and behold, here I am. So for me, it was straightforward kind of really process.
Just to clarify for anybody who doesn't know, you mentioned SAG, but that's the Screen Actors Guild membership.
Yeah. Screen Actors Guild of America.
And also I just want to add as well, it's just like so many lawyers will put you off as well. And it's, I get it. I do. I think, you've got to be really sure you want to do this. But one of the lawyers told me I needed 7 leading roles, 7, like a couple of Oscars and things like that. And I'm thinking, well, I'd love that. But so that was an opinion I had when I had an O1 visa, and I said, can I go for the green card? And that's what she said. And, I went to another lawyer, and luckily it's all worked out for me. But,
And it also depends on who you get processing, because Nichola.
I've had a couple where it depends on the day. It depends on the day who you get. They might be eating a burger and go, yeah, tick. And they might be having a bad day, but I've had that and my visa hasn't gone through. And I thought, why? I've got everything going for it. But, you get there in the end, but it's not been easy, let me tell you. Sadly.
No, and then there are other people, as like Rez says, it's super simple. So
I was in a lucky position, Lance, because I had all the requirements they needed, in terms of credits, in terms of press and all that kind of stuff. So it was that. But then, you've got stories of other people coming, had done 1 or 2 things, and that's it. That was enough. So it is very case by case how they judge it. I mean,
and on that point, the reason that is that if you are a new actor, like if you just graduated, they understand that you won't necessarily have the credits, and so they give you leeway. Whereas for me, I was 46 when I came here. I needed a hell of a lot more to be able to say that, I was a successful industry person.
There's 7 people watching right now. So just to say thank you for the people that are watching right now. There's 7 of you. If you've got any questions, don't worry if the question seems obvious. Just put it in the chat, and I'll ask it on your behalf. So just wanted to do a shout out to some of our regulars. We've got independent filmmaker Oliver Hollingdale watching the stream. He's working on a wonderful movie right now. He's been talking about this film he's been doing. I think it's called Gallimere, something like that. He's just put Hollywood is dead. I mean, I'm going to come back to that topic myself. I don't think that's true, but it's certainly got some issues. I've also got which I'm as a girl who also runs a channel, Positive Fandom. I'm going to be doing a stream with her in the not too distant future. I think we're doing a recording on historical adaptations and historical dramas. So that's right up my street, as we know. Really looking forward to doing that. And of course, Suzette's poking in and making lots of comments, which really makes me wonder why she's just not here co-hosting the stream with me instead of sitting in the bed with a nice warm cup of cocoa and commenting. But anyway, all good. So the next topic I want to move on to, so that's visas, and that's interesting. I think the summary there is the application process for the visa is a case-by-case basis. Make sure you get the right lawyer, preferably someone that's been recommended. Certainly the Outcasts might be able to pass on some names to you. So if you've subscribed to our channel, we will definitely try and help you if you need a recommation for a decent name.
And have lots of money.
Our network. See if we can get one and all the rest of it. Do subscribe, like, and all that sort of thing. But one of the other things that people are going to want to know about is managers and agents. Now, I was out in LA looking for both of those and had some meetings a while back. In the UK and indeed in Europe, people basically, actors have an agent and that's it. And the agent, their job is to deal with the contracts, get you work. Some of them are very good at doing that. Some of them less so. And, and they handle all the paperwork side of the stuff that actors don't want to bother with. That's not what they do. Actors are not accountants, although, as Elton John will tell you, he wishes some of them were. But in LA, you have an agent and a manager. So the question that I want to put to each of you, and I'm going to start with Rez first, is first of all, how easy was it to get an agent in LA once you got there, once you were out there? How did you get that agent? And then did that agent, did the manager come with that? Had to get them separately? Did you feel you needed a manager? Was there this pressure that you've got to have both? Or were you like, look, hang on, I'm British, you're my agent. Tell me exactly what you're going to cover and I'll deal with the rest. Give us some perspective on that, please, Rez. In 5 minutes, if you can.
No, it's interesting because I came at a time that was not the best, really. Everything was shut and people were, So yes, ideally, if you come out here, what you want to do is get your British agent to do introductions and get you kind of meeting people out here. Well, people weren't doing that. And it does depend on the contacts your British agent has. So I came out here. Nothing was closed. So instead of just sitting around, I just started looking and started writing emails really to do that, and start writing and sending out your materials and saying, this is me. I'm here on a green card. I'm a British South Asian actor, blah, blah, blah. And just sending out, and you send out loads and loads and you hope, some people get back to you. And they did. And so those meetings only took place on Zoom. And this is a big, big industry out here. And you have to kind of sift through what people are saying to you and what they want. As I said, I had some very interesting discussions with people and their opinions about what they thought. But it does depend on having your material, what's on your CV and, your show reel and just sending out and just applying that way. Perseverance, you need it. It took a long time. It took a year and a bit really to find all my team, and it's very split up over here. You have commercial agents separate, you have your theatrical agent separate, voiceover agent, and all this kind of thing. And then on top of that, you have a manager, which I know is hard to kind of get your head around, but the manager can be the conduit to kind of link, and be the kind of spearhead and link all those, different people working for you. So that's my understanding of it. I've only been here, coming up to 2 years or so. Do you know what I mean? So that's my understanding of that.
Before I ask the same question to my other two guests, Rez, just to follow on from that, when you put this team of various managers and agents and things together and, in the future, hopefully for you, an assistant when you land that lead detective role in NCIS Kansas, please cast him. You should, Mr. Cannon. I mean, isn't that quite a big portion of your paycheck pie?
The wages here are more, I have to say. Do you know what I mean? That's one of the reasons why actors come out here. We're paid more. So the SAG-AFTRA rates are higher than your equity rates. I've had friends on both contracts, and I always say to my friends on equity contracts, don't ask the SAG actors how much they on. We're all doing the same job, but the rates, the way they're negotiated and how the union negotiates with producers is different.
So let's say you bagged $100,000 job for that amazing guest role that you're going to be having soon on
one day
on Law and Order Special Victims Unit. Olivia, if you're watching, cast this man. He's very good. I mean, so if you got $100,000 paycheck, roughly how much of that are you going to take home after taxes, agents, and all the rest of it? What's the?
I had a conversation with my agent, my accountant for that about that. You know,
you got to pay them as well. So that's another.
You're going to pay your accountant as well, because it gets very complicated with the UK taxes and US taxes and everything. So we've got to do that as well. But the general thought. Oh, and you have to have lawyers as well. Because lawyers, you have to have a lawyer out here when you negotiate.
You got your lawyer, you got your accountant, you got your agent, you got your manager, maybe an assistant, maybe somebody else in there.
So out of that $100,000, they would say, you know, bank 60 for you, 40 for them.
Right, 60-40. Okay, all right, wow.
And that's your taxes and everything included, you know. So yeah, so roughly about that. I mean, I don't know. That's what people tell me. That's what my accountant said to me.
Nichola, same question. How long did it take you to get an agent / manager? Did you need them both straight away? How did it all work out?
Yeah, I was lucky because this industry Hollywood that we went to, it was a lovely introduction for us because we had meetings every day. So we'd have I think we had mostly managers and a couple of agents, and I was just excited. I was like, oh my God, how many are we meeting this week? You know, there was a lot of meetings we had, and it was back to back, and you know, you had to be ready and prepared. And I remember getting headshots and the resume, you know, clipped together right, and we all had to make sure. And I'm thinking, I've never done this before. You know, it was just such an alien thing for me since England. And we met these people, and obviously I was pending at the time. My O1 visa was pending, and so they were like, "Oh my gosh, well when it's through, give us a call," you know. So it was a lovely introduction to the industry, to meet all these people and get advice from them. And then I just hoped when I came back a few months later, when it did get approved, that they would remember me. And luckily when I did, I booked myself into a hotel. I had the Hollywood Hills. I'm thinking, this is it. I've got 5 meetings with managers and an agent. And luckily one did stick, and I got a manager first. And a manager really worked, they worked incredibly well for me. I have an agent as well to follow that. And, you know, both of them, it was lovely to have. I felt for me, it was like double opportunity. It's like whoever can get me, you know, whoever gets the job, basically. But I just found it a lot easier than it was in England.
Interesting.
And it was nice, you know, it was nice to actually meet these people. I was like, they want to meet me? It was such a weird experience for me because I've not had that much opportunity of people wanting to meet with me. So
Raymond, was your experience similar? Let us know while I quickly dash to the loo.
I'm the cheap and cheerful version of all of that. I don't have a lawyer. I don't have an accountant. I don't have a manager. I just have my agent. But I think it's also dependent on the fact that I have a whole lot of other, I'm making films, I'm writing, I'm supplementing my income with things like teaching yoga and doing massage. And it's one of the things that you need to be aware if you're on an O1 visa is, strictly speaking, you're not allowed to do anything other than what's on that O1 visa. So if you're here as an actor on an O1 visa, you're not allowed to get a job in a restaurant or anything else like that. My experience in London was I was part of a cooperative agency, which doesn't exist here. I really struggled to get meetings with agents, and to this day, I don't know why. Came to LA, and I think in my first 2 weeks, I got my agent, and I've been with him ever since. I worked for them for a while. I ran their voiceover department for a while. They actually do represent me in terms of commercial, voiceover, and theatrical. I've just started doing mocap as well, and that requires somebody else who's specialized in terms of the guy who teaches those courses.
So you have to have a different agent for mocap.
You don't have to, but you're more likely. The guy Richard Doughton, who I saw, he has a pretty much, not a monopoly, but he's very well known in the industry. So he's often casting the stuff. And it's a very different process, casting mocap to anything else.
For those people watching, that's motion capture.
Yeah.
So, for example, if you were going up for a film like Avatar, which is all motion capture, no doubt that guy, if he's a specialist in that arena, has probably been involved in some of the casting of something like Avatar.
And then I have thought about getting a manager recently, just because Nichola's had such good experiences with managers helping her get work. But I also do actually manage to get, I know one actress who never had an agent, always got all her own work, and got some really good jobs.
Yeah.
And I've got myself certain jobs as well, because sometimes my agent and I will apply, and it'll be me who gets the response.
Yeah. I will say with that's what's amazing here as well, is that you have an agent and a manager, but also you can self-submit, which I found you couldn't do in England, because when you have an agent, you have to nudge your agent for that job. So you can't. So the self-submissions, they might not be as big as your agent and manager, because they'll get different auditions, but there are other auditions that come through and you can self-submit. So. And
bearing in mind that most auditions here, I heard a casting director say, for an under 5 line role, we'll get something like 1,000 submissions for that. For one role. Yeah, sometimes more. And in terms of the rates, if you are looking for an agent, you look for a SAG agent, because they are ratified by the Screen Actors Guild,
right?
Rather than going with somebody who's and they have to, by law, they're only allowed to charge 10%.
Right. So there's no variation on that, which is good.
But a manager can charge whatever they want. So you have to negotiate with your manager.
Get the right manager.
Legally, a SAG agent can only charge you 10%.
I want to talk about auditions, but I want to jump on questions in chat whenever they come up. And we had one earlier from Sleeping Elephant, whose real name, I believe, is Shaz. Great handle, that. The Sleeping Elephant. Clearly they're about to rise up. Just a question on, in your experience, actors, how long did it take you to master a decent American accent? Hers is terrible, apparently. I'm assuming it's a she, because the name is Shaz. They haven't told me otherwise. But yeah, so Rez, how long did it take you to? I know yours is pretty decent.
Yeah, I'm still in class. You know, you work on it continually. Yeah, so I've been here 2 years, so and I still go regularly to class to kind of improve it. A lot of actors here have a coach, so they'll get a dialect coach, you know, so especially if you're South African, British, Australia, whatever, and you get an audition, you go to a coach to help you with the sides and, you know, get the accent and get out any kinks. But yes,
is it best to perfect? Is it best to perfect like a general one, like a general American that's passable first? That's maybe a bit ambiguous as to the origin.
I think they talk about something called here General American, which is probably the RP equivalent. It's an accent that doesn't really exist. It's just what Hollywood and TV use. It's what it'd be the equivalent of RP in Britain. And I
call
think
it the Damian Lewis accent.
Yeah,
when you watch him in either Band of Brothers, my favorite show that he ever did, or Billions, you think, where would this character be from? And it's quite hard to pin down, because he's not, the accent's great and it's perfectly consistent, but you wouldn't say it's Southern or Californian or necessarily East Coast. It's just a very good general American accent. Kym, how long did it take you to master yours?
So before I came, I saw an accent coach who worked at Central, I think, and went and I recorded a session with him, and then I have that tape that I work with. But just being surrounded by the accent a lot is very helpful. I have done those things of like going out, trying to do my shopping in an American accent, and it's amazing how quickly you forget. Unfortunately, I think there are a lot of British actors who think they have a good accent, and I know Americans who sit and watch TV programs with me and go, oh my God, they're just instantaneously, that's not an American. And there seems to be more leeway, because I think a lot of Americans don't really seem to pay attention to accents. and
Interesting.
it's much easier for most Brits to do a southern accent because of the rhotic R, the southern and the so if you say things like, if you say they're hiring drivers helpers, where there's an R at the end of each word, if you do it in the southern, it's they're hiring drivers helpers, and it's the same as open R sound that we have, hiring drivers helpers. And to be able to get that hard R, particularly if you've got something like an Essex accent or whatever, where you don't actually use the R a lot in your own accent, it's very, very hard to then develop that dexterity of your tongue. And I think you have to work daily, because if you're not, it's like, the funny thing for me is, like, if somebody's a dancer or a musician, they know that they have to dance or practice every day. And there are too many actors who just go, oh, I'll practice my American accent the night before.
Listen, I could not agree more. I've said it on this stream. I say it in class with the Outcasts every week. Acting is a muscle. You have to exercise it. It's like going to the gym. And like when you go to the gym, you try out different machines for a reason, to develop different skill sets, different muscles in your body. You do different things at different acting classes for exactly the same reason. Nichola, you were nodding your head a lot there. I just wondered, so which accent did you sort of perfect? Did you do it before you went out, so you kind of had it in the bag, and did you go for a general
does a very
one?
Good Valley Girl accent.
What did you do?
I think I have really struggled with accents, like, because a lot of people go, but you're an actor, can't you do an accent? And I'm like, well, I've always booked roles as an English person, but it's no excuse. Of course, I'm out in America. I want to be doing American roles. I don't want to limit myself, but I do struggle. I do, but I work at it every day. Same as Raymond, if I'm in a grocery store, because they can't understand me anyway, and I really try my best. But water. So if I ask for water, I don't know what I'm going to get. But no, it's definitely a skill, and I think it comes easy to some people than it does to others. But I've definitely struggled. But I'll go for a general. I think Southern's a little bit easier for me, but I think being from Essex, I have to work that little bit extra harder. So. Yes,
there is. I think there's it's something to note, that is, if you have got a British accent, whatever, that's one of the amazing things about here. It gives you a unique selling point, and in actual fact, that's often what gets you the role. It's not being American. So.
Yeah, and also I think it's been easier for us in England. We grew up with American shows. And I think, you kind of hear it in the back, you hear it, and it kind of comes to you a little bit easier, I think. But yeah, you still have to work at it.
And I mean, did everybody answer that question? I think you all did, didn't you? Yeah, Rez, you came out. Aram has wondered if American actors struggle with perfecting British accents. There are some who are very good at it, and there are some, bless him, I love him, Keanu Reeves, who are not so great at it. But I love Keanu Reeves, got to say. What a wonderful human being he is. I just wanted to find out about the industry. And I want to talk about LA a bit as well. And by the way, guys, if you start running out of time, just let me know. Give me 5-minute warning and we can wrap it up. But there are a few topics I still want to get onto. So LA was, the pandemic and the pandemic laws and everything were different depending on what state you were in. And I know LA came in for quite a lot of criticism in certain quarters, and it was very locked down. It was like a ghost town. And I think if the news that I read was correct, and I'm not assuming it was because I wasn't there, it took quite a long time, longer than some parts of the United States, to go back to normal. So, Rez, you kind of arrived there in a blaze of glory, only to be in the midst of lockdown. But then, fortunately, got a lease of life joining the Outcasts and reading I think you read nearly all of my 30 scripts that I wrote in 2020. How did you find that? And has it returned to normal? I mean, where's it at now?
I think it's, because I don't know. Obviously, I don't really know LA pre-pandemic, what it was really like running around for auditions. I hear from stories from people, you know, and even actually my community, you know, that I'm still getting to meet people like, you know, you guys are new to me because, you know, we've not met and I've not been around to get out because most of that time I was stuck in my apartment, you know. And so for a lot of it, you know, Lance, when we did the Outcasts, that was a godsend. I mean, it absolutely was, you know, an amazing time, and, you know, being creative. Also, you know, I had to set my apartment up, you know, because when you rent here, you get nothing. Like, I think my landlord only provided the cooker and everything else I had to put in myself. And I just signed a year's lease, and then all of a sudden, all my friends and Brits were leaving in droves because of the pandemic. And I've just signed a lease. What do I can't just. It's too much money. So I really had to kind of knuckle down, and so. Finding classes on Zoom and like doing things like Outcasts and, you know, even dialect coach on Zoom. You know, Zoom's been like kind of like, thank goodness for Zoom, you know, and having that as an outlet to do that. And in terms of casting, I think I've only had 2 in-person, like to go in auditions, and both of them have been for commercials. All other auditions are self-tape and callbacks on Zoom at the moment. And even when you speak to, like, you know, in workshops, you get to speak to casting directors and that, a lot of them are saying, we're not ready to go back yet. We're not going to open up the offices. A lot of them are saying, this is it. This is the way it's going to go now. We don't want to have an office because, you know, having to pay, you know, rents in LA and everything. So I don't know. This might be a permanent change.
I think it is both in LA and in the UK, because why would a casting director for the first round of castings pay for an expensive room to rent out and have to have assistants there to manage the people in and out and all the necessaries that go along with that, when actually let's do self-tapes and weed out our first rounds from self-tapes. All that requires is time. It doesn't require
and a lot less time than having a line of people who you're, hello, how are you? Thank you so much. Explain it. But
it does come with a big disadvantage, and that is that you don't get a proper sense of someone's energy. But one of the things we learned from doing all the Outcast Zoom reads, and indeed the live performances we did, which you can see on the channel, check them out, there's loads of them. I noticed that all of the Outcasts got really good at performing on camera on Zoom, which also then reflected their ability to record their self-tapes, and they got very confident with their self-tapes. And loads of the people that had been on our script reads online were all getting callbacks for things. It was very rare that they put something in and they didn't get a callback and at least got to the next stage. And for a while, I really noticed that. And then when we had new people coming on, because you'll remember, Rez, at one point we had a queue of people. We couldn't get everybody on every time we did a script read. There was just too many people. It was the new people that came in were nowhere near as confident at sight reading the dialogue than the Outcasts, who were doing loads of different things and using the distance of camera to emphasize certain lines and coming back and all that kind of stuff, just to make it more interesting. And I think you've got to do anything you can when you're recording a self-tape, because they're going to see dozens of them. You've got to do anything you can to stand out. Not that, Raymond.
Come on, Nichola, come on.
One example that I gave, and there's never a right or wrong answer for some of these things, although that was definitely wrong, but is that there was a guy recording a scene, and I worked on the scene with him because I coach people for their scenes. That's one of the things I do. And he was in a boat in a storm. And I said, mate, we really need a storm with this because you're shouting, but you're shouting above nothing. Let me just find some sound effects for you. And I shared the stream as we were recording his self-tape with a storm sound effect. And his agent loved it. His agent absolutely loved it and said that was great. And I had another director that I did some casting for who said the same thing, that one of the actresses I sent his way, she did a self-tape, but she edited it so it was like a proper scene. And he loved it. He said it was the best self-tape he'd ever received. So I think the lesson there is the more, and we've kind of jumped topics a bit, but the more captivating you can make your self-tapes as actors, and I know we're going to do a stream about self-tapes in the future, the better.
And coincidentally, we were having a chat earlier about Nichola had an audition where she had to use a gun. And before, it's like you don't bring a prop gun into an audition room. And now you can use it in a self-tape. So
Yeah.
you're not standing there going,
yeah, looking ridiculous with a pretend banana or like,
Yeah, I think props are definitely useful because people want to see how you move. They want to see what you do when you pick things up. I think all of that stuff is really, really valuable. Do you agree, Rez?
Absolutely, it works. I think you got to make it work for you, and if having that prop helps you, because there are people out here, and I'm sure the guys can tell you as well, that absolutely hate props, don't have them. They go absolutely apoplectic if you have a prop. So ultimately, you have to take ownership of your tape, of what you're putting out there. You have to make it authentic to yourself, who represent you. And if a prop helps you, or wearing a costume or whatever it is, wardrobe that helps you, then do it. Because there's no one rule, because people will say one thing or the other. There's other people that will say, don't dare cut it, don't edit it, don't try to make a film. That's not what the director wants. They want you to be the actor against a plain background, like I've got, and just stand there and do it. So you'll hear all sorts of opinions, and ultimately you can only do what you feel is right for you. So for me, I just try to do whatever. And if a prop's going to help, if I need to put on a hat, a baseball cap, or a jacket, or a shirt, or whatever, I'll do it.
Yeah.
I've heard from one casting director where I was a reader for the casting, criticizing the woman who was in front of her for her headshot, because this is a theatrical audition and your headshot, she was smiling. You do not smile for a theatrical headshot. Why? Who made that rule up? It's just does she look like? Oh, she also criticized her because her hair was no longer down to her shoulders. She'd had it cut to a bob, and well, you don't look like your photograph anymore. It's just absurd. There are some people who've got really hard and fast rules, and that thing about props is like, I think that is changing. Because people are getting more used to seeing something. Whereas I say, if you arrived in a in-person audition with a prop gun, it's like an absolute no-no. Or prop knife.
Definitely not in the wake of current events in America. Absolutely not. But
I think they're getting more used to seeing people use props, and then it's kind of like, oh, well, why is this person, doing this for a telephone? Why aren't they just holding a phone?
Priyanka Area, who's in the chat, and thank you for coming in and watching. Do support, share the stream, subscribe. Please subscribe if you're watching. We want the channel to grow, want it to be the place for all things creative. She's saying she totally agrees with all these points. I've experienced this myself in terms of making a self-tapes stand out. I think you're right in the sense that it is difficult. You've got to kind of, in some ways, you've got to kind of know the people that you're sending it to, and you've got to do your best to give them exactly what they want. But sometimes don't be afraid to try and surprise them as well in a good way.
Absolutely. I think with the self-tapes now, they give you instructions. And so if you really read it, you know what they want. And I booked off a self-tape, which really helped me, because I thought, do they even watch self-tapes? I was scared that it was going into self-tapes. I thought, I don't even know if they will watch this. But the fact that I booked off one really gave me a lot more confidence that, oh, okay, you can do this, and that they will watch them.
What before I've only got a couple more things, and then we'll start to wrap up. But a question for each of you again. What other, in your experience, having your jobbing actors out in California, what other skill sets have you found particularly useful? Be that horse riding, or the ability to juggle balls, or whether it's shuffling of cards, magic tricks. I mean, is there anything in particular that stood out? Rez, for you first.
To be honest, Lance, no, not really, because I think for, if they book you and they want you to be able to ride a horse, and there's time, you know what I mean? I mean, if you're coming in, for a day player, or like under a 5 or something, and they need you to ride a horse, they need you to ride a horse. But ultimately, if you're playing a larger part and there's time, you can get lessons, they'll train you. It depends how much they want you. So, I mean, do the things that you enjoy doing. If you like surfing, or if you like, rock climbing, or, riding, horseback riding, then go do those things for you. And hopefully that'll be, utilized on your skill set if they need to, if they need that. you know, weapons training. Someone was telling me about here, like doing some weapons training and things, and guns totally freak me out, man. Do you know what I mean? I'm like, what, really? But I suppose, you know,
even though you played a character in Assassin's Creed, the video game, but yes, that's
yeah, exactly. You know what I mean? But yeah,
you're an actor, so
we're an actor. So, you know, actually going and actually having that and looking like, you know, you look like, you know, you're playing a, you know, federal officer or something. You know, you got to look like it's authentic.
Yeah.
So I would say I encourage you to do the skills that you enjoy doing. You know, some of my friends do, you know, mixed martial arts and stuff, because then they can utilize those things. We can't do everything that they'll need. So, you know, do things that, you know, you enjoy yourself.
Raymond, your start for 10, please.
So I have quite a large range of skills. So I dance and I sing, and I can cut hair, and do, you know, there are also the things that you may. So like I got cast once because I cut hair, and I went in and I knew what I was doing with scissors and things. But the guy next to me didn't know what he was doing, and he also got cast, and we were both cast as barbers in a commercial. And one of the things I would say is, if you come here, choose a car that will get you hired if you are going to do background work, because often you get a bump for just bringing your car, and knowing which cars get used and which colors and things like that. So yeah, I have no problem doing background work. I'd rather be doing background than working in a restaurant. So and it's a good rate of pay with SAG. I was permanent background on the morning show for 2 seasons. They'll probably bring me back on the 3rd one, and particularly long stints on shows where you come in and you're part of a family and a crew. It's really nice.
Yeah,
you
got to work with Jennifer Aniston on the morning show.
Yeah, Jennifer Aniston, with Reese Witherspoon, Steve Carell. I'm quite friendly with Nestor. Oh, gone blank on his last name. Who's in the in morning show? Mark Duplass, who's he and his brother are quite prolific filmmakers.
Yeah, indeed.
So it's nice. It's an interesting way of making. You mentioned Mimi Leader earlier.
I did.
She was the executive producer on morning show.
Great female director as well.
Yeah. So it's had that nice moment where she's come in and said to me directly, "Good work, Raymond. Thank you so much for a little scene I had." And it's, you know, you go, "Oh, great! I got noticed. Somebody's appreciating my work." And you never. One of the things I would say, you never know who you know. So one of my best friends now is her brother is married to Mimi's daughter, and you go like that's a connection, and you don't. I'm a bit against people trying to use people for their own benefit in terms of that, but it's nice that, you know, for example, Mimi's daughter has watched my demo reel and told my friend Rachel that said he's really good, he knows what he's doing, and you never know who's going to
goes up the tree, and
you really don't know.
No,
that's I mean, LA does have some things about it. I mean, listen, last time I was there was 2006, so it was a long time ago. But LA does have some things about it that are distinctly different. One of them, for example, is theatre is not very big out there. And Raymond, you and I have both directed fringe shows in London. I've done 14 of them myself, and in fact, I co-directed one with you, which you wrote. I know you were trying to get that on in LA, and you did do a play, but I think it was a different version.
It was a different play.
Yeah. I mean, you know, how hard, because I remember, like, I wrote a script when I was in LA, I thought it would be great to get 10 actors in a room and let's just read it, and I can hear it out loud. Good for them, good for me. In London, you could do that, you know, and even pre-pandemic, you could normally find 10 actors that would like to read a script and, you know, provide them with some nice refreshments and whatever, and we all get together and do it. In LA, it's that thing of, let's do it next week, and then you never hear from people again. That mentality, is that changing? Is it easier once you're there to make those connections and bring teams together and say, let's do a showcase? Or, you know, how hard is that?
I was going to say, I think you need to find your gems, as I call them. You find your people, and you know that you can rely on them, and you know that those people are going to, like, we do a game night. Yeah, game night every week, every Monday. And it surprises me how much commitment we do just for a game night. We turn up every Monday, but people are actors. They're doing this, they're doing that. But we always manage to meet up every Monday. And it's a surprise to me. But again, it's like finding your people, and you know that they will, you know, if they can be there, they will. If they won't, you know, you're going to hear from them and they'll tell you that. But yeah, there's definitely a thing here of like, I have 3 parties, or I have 3 auditions to go to. Or like, there's always something else to be doing. I found myself in England, you know, looking for these opportunities. Here it's like there's too many, but you have to know, you know, be respectful of people's time as well. You know, I'm very appreciative.
I definitely have had quite a few table reads. I've been paid to do table reads, which is nice as well, which never happened in the UK.
Yeah.
You know, I was hired by one director to literally come in and work on the script for an evening with a young teenage actor. He was trying to work out the finer points of the script, and it's certainly, I did 2 Zoom readings of scripts that I wrote during the pandemic. People, it's just that thing of like today, asking people if they want to take part of this interview, and if you happen to catch them on the right day, then it's good.
Yeah. Rez, I mean, your experience, I mean, I know you've had a bit of work out there now, but have you had to stay proactive and try to do other things as well, just to stay creative, make those connections? I'm not talking about with the Outcasts. I know you do that, but other things.
No, I think constantly we're looking to do that and make connections. And the thing is, when we go out to work, you make new connections, and they know you now, and then they'll start bringing you in. Like, I've done a bit of directing, at AFI. I started doing a bit of a directing course there, 2 terms of that, and things, and that was great, and made connections there. And the casting director of that then got to know me, and then they start recommending you for things. So yeah, work breeds more work, that old adage saying, in terms of doing that. And voiceover has been very good for me here. Computer games and all sorts of different other things here, utilizing first my British accent, then doing other things, and now American as well. And so it's just a constant, because this town is so industry focused. I mean, everyone you meet is involved somehow in it. The other day, me and my friend were just sat having a coffee somewhere, and this guy overheard us talking, and he goes, "Hey, I love you Brits, man." And like, they're saying, "Oh, what do you do?" And he said, "I'm an accountant." We're like, "Oh, great. You do a proper job." But he works for Fox. So there you go. So still in the industry, no matter what,
Yeah.
So it is very geared, this town.
I'm a lawyer, an entertainment lawyer,
an entertainment lawyer, exactly.
A few of them are not. I have a friend who's a mechanic, and he's only a mechanic.
Yay.
I will say, as well, what I love about LA is the screenings you get to go to with SAG. Like just this week, I got to meet Gary Oldman on that Slow Horses screen. I've got to meet so many big actors, and I'm hanging out with them, having drinks with them afterwards in the reception. And it's just, I never did that in England. And I'm not saying that happens every day or every week, but when it does, it's like, oh my God. Yeah.
That's one thing that's really amazing for me, where things can change so rapidly. I mean, there's one month where I didn't have enough money for my rent, and I literally, somebody posted something on Facebook for a voiceover job. The next day I went in, and I think I got it on the first take, and the guy said, well, maybe we should do another take since you're here. And 10 minutes later, I left with $800. And I'm like, that was my rent paid, and things can turn on a dime here. Whereas, as I say, in London, 23 years, the class system, I constantly like, oh, you didn't go to RADA, you didn't go to Central, you didn't. Like,
yeah, that's less of a problem in America. That, I mean, you've got the elitism at the very top, sure, but that kind of RADA set and that cog isn't quite there. Although, of course, people that go through that system are still bagging a lot of the top Hollywood jobs.
I think that's never going to change. I think, the named actors now are doing TV because it's shorter amount of time, and they get to do like a film. It's like a film. And so I think you know, that's always going to be there. And of course, we all know when you get there, it's just going to be a continual career that continues. But, you know, when you're trying to get there, it's like, here has just been so much more opportunity. I don't think I would have booked these jobs if I'd have been in England, but I could be wrong. But...
A follow-up question, and I want really quick answers to this. So we've just got a couple more things and we'll be done. Social media and having a presence there, important, yes or no? Rez?
Bane of my life. I hate it, you know. It's required from some aspect to promote your work and the rest of it, and then all good luck to you to do it. I really can't. It's a real bugbear of mine. And, you know, I've had some interesting conversations with people and that. On the whole, the industry, you know, cast directors are saying they don't care. They don't care about your social media. Ultimately, It's about talent and the rest of it. But there are producers out there. The caveat is there are producers out there that do look at that, and I think that's really important. Whether that translates to an audience, you know, if you've got a million followers, say, because you're a young influencer and that, whether that they follow you because of your skill or because they're, you know, liking your pictures you're posting, I don't think that translates into the actual audience that come to see your product. But
that's interesting.
There are definitely lots of castings which say, please tell us how many followers you have on Instagram and blah, blah, blah. And that's why they're casting people who aren't necessarily talented, but they've got followers.
Yeah.
So, okay. Nichola?
I absolutely hate it as well. Absolutely hate it with a passion. But unfortunately, it is part of our job. And I think sometimes it's easier to keep in touch with people that way. So I like that sense of it.
Yes.
But, you know, and same with what Raymond said, you know, they do want the followers, but then some jobs they don't. So I just think it's a balance.
I've definitely been able to talk to people who I didn't think I'd ever be able to talk to. Like there's a casting director, Danielle Eskenazi, who I had a nice little banter back and forth and on Twitter. And that's great because she then knows who I am. And she liked one of the videos I made during the pandemic. And, you know, it's like, so it is can be useful. It was useful until I got banned on Twitter. So now I can't talk to Danielle anymore.
That's a topic for another show. Just this final topic, and then I'm going to ask you about favourite shows of recent years, which is a question we always do. There's a lot of talk, particularly from friends of mine who have lived in LA and who have recently moved, that California and particularly San Francisco and Los Angeles has changed dramatically in the last 10 years. Rising house prices, much like London, all that kind of thing, high cost of living. But the homelessness problem in particular is something that's huge out there now. Now, when I was out in LA, I saw a bit of that. But I certainly didn't see No Cardboard City. I saw a little bit of it, but I didn't, there wasn't rows and rows and rows of it. And now I think even in sort of areas creeping up towards, you know, Venice Beach and whatnot, you've got, you know, rows of tents and things. Is it as bad as I'm being led to believe, or what's the story? Rez, you first on that.
Because it's really shocking for me that, you know, I've traveled the world a bit. I've been to India and places like that where you expect to see it. You don't. I didn't expect to see it in the richest country in the world and the richest state within that country. I was like, what? It's, you know, and it's rows and rows. I mean, you got Skid Row that goes on for miles, apparently, and things. And even just up the road from me, from West Hollywood, as you go into Hollywood, you'll start seeing it. It's so, you know, you've got a car garage with Lamborghinis and that, and outside you've got people encamped in, like, you know, cardboard boxes or tents and things. So yeah, it's a huge problem. It just highlights for me the gap. You know, you can so easily fall into that gap and there's no safety net to catch you. I don't know it maybe well enough to know the systems and what it is, but there seems to be a lot of problem with mental health illness, drug use and things like that. So yeah, it is a problem. Yeah, for sure.
So Nichola, I mean, you've been there the longest. What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I mean, when I first came out here, didn't see anything. I mean, maybe there was, and I didn't see it, but.
And just remind us, sorry, that was 2011, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're talking 10, 11 years. Okay, 11 years ago.
Yeah,
okay, so,
long time.
Yeah.
Still here. But yeah, no, I in the difference between then and now, like, I live in Hollywood. I just recently moved there, and I live in a nice road, but you know, even just this morning on the corner is a homeless person setting up, you know, so
right,
it's shocking, as Rez said, you know, in the richest state and the richest country, but it is a problem.
And is there a matching rise in crime to go along with this as well? Are you finding, does it feel less safe? I mean, Raymond, what are your thoughts?
The area I live in is very safe. I don't know why. It's just, I'm in Glendale, and you know, I've made the mistake of like leaving my door open overnight, and I'm fine. You know, it's like, which I would never have. You know, in London, I'd be worried about people sneaking around. You know, I was burgled in London, and it was traumatic. I came back a second time as well, and I feel much safer here. What concerns me is more when I see the homeless people under bridges, and then suddenly they're not there, and I'm like, what the hell happened to them? That concerns me.
Interesting. It's a you know, because there was a big news story about a lot of the big stars that, you know, used to live in Malibu and all that kind of thing, that they're moving out and selling their homes and setting up in Nashville or Texas or wherever to raise their kids, and California for them is not the place to be anymore. And I don't know how true that is. You read stuff online, even official news channels. You've got to question everything these days. I like to hear the first-hand experience of people, you know, in those
so
communities.
Many people constantly moving from one state to another. Americans are very mobile.
I think the pandemic hit a lot of people very hard, and I think that was a big issue, most likely. You know, that people were like, well, where do I want to be if I'm going to be isolated for the next God knows how long? But also, I do think the rise in, you know, the prices is another issue. But I think, you know, on the whole, if you can make it here, you know, it's
if you can make it here, you'll make
it anywhere. My friend Arum, and I've told her I can't use that name. It's too complicated. I'm just going to call her Vroom Vroom. So my friend Vroom Vroom, who's in Cali now in Anaheim, but she lives in New York, but she's here for Star Wars Celebration. Damn, you paid for that? Oh, that's quite a lot, quite expensive, isn't it? Yeah, she says you definitely see homelessness there, even in Anaheim. And that Anaheim was, when I went to Anaheim, that was a pretty neat and tidy area. It's theme parks and nice
I mean, I'm a Disney freak. I'm always there. I've got my annual pass, and I don't see it that much. But maybe I'm just in the Disney bit, and I don't see it in the bubble.
So you haven't noticed a change in Anaheim in particular, but you have noticed.
No, I don't know whether, you know, there's, you know, they sold it out, or, but yeah, I haven't seen it.
As Raymond says, you wonder where they go. You know, you wonder.
My niece
so guys, this has been a really interesting stream, and I think actually we could have talked a lot longer. I don't want to keep you. But and I'll wrap up with my final question in a sec. But I'd love to have you guys come back another time. One of the things we do is we do a different show called Chew the Fat, and it's where myself and some guests will talk about something like our top 10 favorite horror films from before 2005, which is one of the streams I've got coming up with a couple of horror film directors. I'm doing top 10 favorite crime genre shows with Craig Fairbrass, who's been in quite a few of those.
Yes.
Yeah, so I might have some stuff like that you guys could take part in. So if you'd be willing, I'd love to have you back as guests on Chew the Fat. If you can make one of those, they'll either be Sunday night, slightly earlier, normally starts at 8, or we do them on Wednesdays. But Wednesdays is normally industry interviews, but I've moved that especially for you guys because I know LA. Sunday is the easiest day to get hold of people. I know that from working out there myself. So there's one thing I've found with actors that are in the maelstrom of trying to make it and are jobbing actors is you have less time to go to the theatre, you have less time to go to the cinema, you have less time to watch TV dramas and stuff like that because you're either always training or you're working or you're trying to get work or you're just trying to survive. But what have you seen in the last couple of years? Don't say Tiger King. What have you seen in the last couple of years on TV that's really, you know, wow, that was a good drama. I wish I'd been in that. And I mean, I could name, I'll start actually just to make it easier. So I've just finished watching, because I'm going to do a massive review on this on the channel, because we're going to be doing a lot of reviews as well. I've just finished watching the first few episodes of The Offer, which is the drama series about the making of The Godfather, which is actually co-produced by a friend of mine, Dexter Fletcher. He also directed the first couple of episodes. What a show! Oh my God,
amazing.
Miles
My
Teller.
friend's in it.
Miles Teller is amazing in it. He's absolutely amazing. It's got Jonathan Shulman, who's just one of my favorite character actors. He's kind of like an American version of Rez. They've got very similar facial features. So Rez, you need to be going up for all of his parts. When he's not available, then they'll book you. You see, and what a good alternative, you know. But
The Offer. It's called The Offer.
The Offer.
It's on Paramount Plus.
Okay.
Paramount Plus.
I'm going to write that down.
I think it's 10 parts altogether, and wisely they're dropping it weekly. You see, they're cottoning on to the fact now that when you drop everything all in one go, what happens is there's no build up on social media, and it's been and gone in social media really quick. And the platforms are cottoning on to this now, that sometimes it's better to release something weekly. It's not going to work for everything, but it's so The Offer is one of mine. During the sort of lockdown era, Dope Sick was my other favorite with Michael Keaton.
Yep.
Absolutely amazing.
Yep.
Rosario Dawson, one of my favorite actresses in that, was probably the best I've ever seen her. Nichola, what have been your shows in the last couple of years? Have you gone, wow, wish I'd had a job on that one?
You mentioned both of them. So The Offer, my friend's in it, Ron Roger. He plays Frank Sinatra's best friend.
Yes.
So I've been.
They've got half the cast of Band of Brothers in The Offer.
Yeah.
Dexter was in Band of Brothers, and I think that's why.
Oh, it's incredible. Any industry person has to watch this. It's so good. Love a good period piece. Also, Dope Sick was just so gritty and so real. It was gut wrenching. You know,
the standard of the acting, every role. There wasn't a single actor in that show. I don't know who the casting director was on it. I'll look them up, but there wasn't a single actor on that show who was weak. Not even the walk-ons.
It was incredible. It was so real. Really
amazing.
like Slow Horses with Gary Oldman.
Haven't seen that.
Oh my God, I went to the screening the other day and I've caught up with it. And what I loved was my drama school is on that road. So I watched the show and I was like, I know this street. Nostalgia. I know it. And
is that a show or a movie?
It's a show.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's based on a book, and I think so. They've got another they've got more to come.
Yeah, sure.
But I'm a huge fan of Handmaid's Tale. And
it's a good show.
If you're on the edge of your seat, I mean, it's so. I'm scared of horrors, and it's bordering on that
First two seasons of that, I really liked. I really rate the actress. I'm afraid I don't know her name, but she played one of the. She's a African-American actress, very tall, and she played one of the handmaidens, sort of with the kind of, not one of the ones that can get pregnant, one of the servants.
Yes. Yeah.
Great actress. She does very little. She really knows her stuff.
Yeah, it's the acting is just phenomenal. Like it's.
I'm gonna get these names.
Every single person. It's so powerful. Yeah, so they've been my favorites.
Raymond, what have been yours?
Top of the list is the OA, which I just. The OA. Yeah, and particularly because of the dance element in it with their movements, I had like a visceral response to it. I found no spoiler alerts, but the end of that first season was just.
That's with Jason Isaacs.
Yes. Yeah.
I watched it. Season 1 was really good.
And also just the notion that somebody had this idea and a whole lot of people said no, and she managed to still get it done. And I'm like, what credit to her. But weirdly, recently I've started getting into a lot of animation stuff, and I absolutely adore Big Mouth, which is so surprisingly rude for American television, but also incredibly clever observations about childhood sexuality and sexual development. And
is it based on a graphic novel?
No, it's just it's written by I can't blank on his name. It's got John Mulaney.
We're not doing well on the names tonight, are we?
John Mulaney is one of the lead actors. It's a bunch of comedians, and they're incredibly funny, and the voice acting is amazing. And then there's a new show which is a weird mix of real and animation called Undone, and fascinating. It's like a philosophical thing about choices we make in life and which is the right direction, but it's a little bit of a psychedelic trip. It's well worth watching.
Fantastic. That they all sound like really. I've been watching a lot of animation as well. Amanda Brugel is the actress who we wanted to give a shout out to on The Handmaid's Tale.
Oh my gosh, incredible!
And
yeah,
I just saw her in something else as well, and she was cracking in that. She's kind of come out of nowhere for me. I mean, she may well have done loads of other work as well, but I've only started. She's only just got on my radar. Amanda, keep up the great work. We think you're fantastic. So sorry, not Raymond. I mean, you look so similar to him, Rez. But easy mistake to make. Rez, your picks of recent times.
Yeah, I know everything you've mentioned is amazing. I have to say, I agree. Handmaid's Tale is unbelievable, but I need a month break between each episode to recover from the trauma.
Oh my God, yeah.
It's so traumatic, that show. So yeah, that's a tough one. I loved Succession. I know everyone saw that, but I actually genuinely loved Succession. I thought,
yeah, we're doing a special stream on that, Rez. So actually,
you
come and be one of the fans on that. We're going to do a special stream on that.
I did love that. Brian Cox and everyone else on that show. I did start
Season
watching.
3 was amazing.
Yeah,
Season 3,
I did start watching because a casting director gave me a scene to do from something called The Path, which is, Lance, we talked about, these cults and things in America, and it's about a cult. And it's with Aaron Paul, Michelle Monaghan, and Hugh Dancy. It's like a Scientology type cult and that. So I started watching that. That's been quite interesting.
Did anyone see the documentary series on Hexium?
Yeah, I saw that because you told me about it.
The Vow is
that's a drama series waiting to be written with somebody playing Keith.
Well,
Keith
they did do the dramatized version of Catherine Oxenberg's daughter.
Oh right, yeah. But I'm waiting for a proper mini series, like about the whole thing, from the rise to success to the fall. And it sounded like he was onto a really good thing at the beginning, and people were feeling really empowered, and they could have achieved great things, but suddenly everybody realized they were in a cult. And lots of weird shit was going on, and
I know.
I was gripped on that documentary. Just watched the whole thing in a couple of days, and
Me too.
it was really, really good. So yeah, I'm just going to give my shout out to, again. I so sorry if I pronounced your name wrong earlier, Michael. I think it's pronounced Stulbarg, who played Richard Sackler of the Sackler family in Dope.
Oh my goodness, yeah, he was creepily haunting.
He's just unbelievable in everything he is. And I talk about him in the acting class all the time. And I say to actors, if you want to watch someone who really knows what he's doing, have a look at this guy. And, just watch him in his different roles. He's a character actor, and we're going to do a stream about character actors. That's another thing we're going to do. God, I'd love to get him on this show. And 90 minutes would not be enough time. So guys, I think we're going to wrap it there because we've gone over the allotted time by 15 minutes, and I really do appreciate you hanging around. I know it's a lot earlier for you than it is for me. I think it's time for me to get some milk and cookies and wind down and watch the latest episode of The Staircase.
I want to watch
Did you watch the documentary version of The Staircase? Because
I watched
don't know why they made a movie.
I watched one episode of it, and then I decided I wanted to watch the drama, and I thought, well, I don't want to watch one and then watch the other, so I'd rather watch the drama because I like Colin Firth.
I watched the documentary, and it's exceptional as well.
It is, yeah, it is good, and it's a lot of twists and turns. Very interesting. Those of you that have been watching all the way through, and I know lots of people have dipped in and out. I think we're going to get some really high viewing figures for this because the information for actors, you know, every actor dreams of going to LA, and anyone who says they don't, I think is telling a major fibberton.
I want to reiterate something about that. If you are going to move here, make sure you've got lots of money to come with, because you go through money very rapidly. I came thinking I'm going to get jobs immediately, and I ran out of money after 8 months. And thank God I had a sister.
Yeah,
so,
even if you plan it, you know, just do that little bit extra. Yeah, for sure.
It's a big step. It's a big step. But you know, guys, like I remember when Raymond first told me he was going to do it, and you'd had conversations with a mutual friend of ours who's no longer with us, Kathy Hammond, who used to work at the Actors Centre. And there was, you know, she kept talking about doing it, but she never went there. And I wondered, you know, how different her life might have turned out if she had made that move. And I think it is good that it's a big fear. This is a big fear that you embrace, because it's a big step, man. It's like you say, it requires a lot. But embrace the fear.
I miss England terribly. You know, I really do. I just come back and I'm homesick, but then you get back into the swing of things again, and you know.
I don't.
Then you remember how shit the weather is over here, and it's fine.
For me.
How about you, Rez? Do you miss it?
I don't miss the weather. The weather here is unbelievable. So yeah.
We've had some shout outs in the chat for a couple of people's favorite shows. Chernobyl. An amazing show. I would completely agree. I was raving about that. I think that came out in 2020, early 2020, just as the pandemic was happening. It was a bizarre synergy, and even more so with the Ukraine and fighting around the actual, you know, and soldiers becoming radioactive because they were digging trenches during the fighting in Ukraine around Chernobyl. Oliver Hollingdale also mentioned Dark, which I also recommend. Is a very good show from Germany. Kind of time travel murder thing. Great first season. Kind of gets a bit. It's one of those ones you've got to be in the right mood. It's not a kick back with a glass of wine and watch show. You know, when you're knackered. It's not one of them, but it is a good show. Vroom Vroom has mentioned Dope Sick was incredible. She's a big fan of Michael Keaton, who it's his best ever performance ever by far, even better than Birdman in my humble opinion. Again, other people saying, Succession, The Path, chiming in. See, people agree we've made great choices. Of course we have. So thank you very much for watching. Thanks so much for my guests for coming, giving up their time. We want to talk to people from all walks of life in the creative arts. If you've got something you want to say and that kind of thing, do let us know. Guys, have you got anything coming out that you want to promote? Raymond, you're always up to something. You must have a short film or a play in hand somewhere.
Debating whether or not we've done a film competition thing together every year, and I'm debating whether or not to do that. But I'm trying to. I've hopefully finally got a producer for the play I did in 2019, which I'm turning into. I've done a screenplay version for that. So
fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Nichola, anything else?
Oh, I wish I had a call back for something, so I want that role, please. Yes, please.
Right, well, fingers crossed. And Rez, any more Assassin's Creed for you? Will you be doing any extensive weapons training in the near future?
I am. I've got a couple of other things. You know what it is here. You know, with NDAs, we have to be so careful. So all I can say is watch this space. There is stuff coming, like big stuff, but just watch the space. You know, because announcing it would get me in a lot of trouble. A lot.
Thanks very much. Anyone watching, if you want to know more about the Outcast, you can contact us via the Facebook page. Information will be below if it's not there already. Check in with us again real soon. Next Wednesday, I'll be talking to actor and stunt choreographer Anthony DeLongis, who's got a stunt ranch right outside LA. I bet Raymond can't wait to go there and throw some axes about. So he's had a really long career, been in things like Star Trek Voyager, one of my favorite B movies of all time, the Sword and Sorcery pick, Sword and the Sorcerer. And I'm really looking forward to having him on the stream next week. And we've got loads of stuff coming after that as well. Guys, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we will see you on the Outcasts Creative channel real soon.